Hello and welcome on board the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. Last night, American popstar Rihanna asked, why aren't we talking about the farmers' protest? Well, that's all that India has been doing all through the day today, a massive backlash against the pop star for interfering in India's internal affairs. The government is outraged. Indian celebrities are saying India must stand united. But what's the best way of dealing with the growing international condemnation of the farmers' protest? How should we approach this? What lies ahead? We look at that on the Newstrack tonight.
Virtual global celebrity uprising for farmers. Pop stars, climate stars and porn stars. Tweets for farmers break the internet. Modi government backhands the foreign celebrities. Top stars line up to fight the propaganda. Global concern genuine or big PR stunt? The top focus on Newstrack.
Is Rihanna just a bahana to target Narendra Modi? How should we deal with international condemnation of the way the government is dealing with the farmers' protest? We'd look at that. But first up, here are the headlines we're following on the Newstrack. Modi government puts Twitter on notice, asking the social media platform to remove handles that incited farmer genocide. Centre warns of penal action for non-compliance. Delhi police announces a 1 lakh rupee cash reward on Deep Sidhu in connection with the Republic Day violence. Mastermind of the Red Fort violence is identified as Iqbal Singh. BJP's Bengal Parivartan Yatra challenged in the Calcutta High Court. Party mulls legal fight back. Apart from Amit Shah and JP Nadda, Prime Minister Modi is likely to join the Yatra as well. Rajnath Singh signs the historic 48,000 crore rupee Tejas deal. Defence Minister sends a resounding message to China and Pakistan, says India is fully prepared to counter border threats. Sensex closes above the 50,000 mark for the first time as the rally continues for the third straight day after the budget. Banks continue to be the big gainers. Global pop star Rihanna tweeted a storm when she put out an international news story saying, why aren't we talking about the farmer protest in India? Ever since that, we've seen a global climate change activist, we've seen a porn star come out in support, and this led to a massive pushback from the Indian government, which activated all the goodwill they had to get top Indian stars from the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Akshay Kumar, Ajay Devgan, Ekta Kapoor, Karan Johar and many others to tweet in support of India staying united as one and not allowing international forces to interfere in Indian affairs. Should the government have responded in this fashion? Is this the best strategy, or will this only fuel more international fire? And how will we deal with that if that were to happen? We look at that and a lot more, but here is our lead story on the Newstrack.
Stars, climate stars, celebrity porn stars.
This house is my set for season 2.
Celebrity influencers.
I'm so excited.
Even the niece of the new US Vice President. A chain reaction of high-profile celebrity tweets has exploded across the internet since Tuesday night, lighting up the farmer protest and taking it more global than ever before. With hundreds of thousands of retweets, likes, comments and shares, the sudden entry of foreign celebrities into the Delhi border protest has triggered a massive escalation in the state of affairs, with the celebrities being equally hailed and taunted on Indian soil. While most big Indian celebrities stayed silent, Indian actors Richa Chadha and Swara Bhaskar opened up in her support, while Diljit Dosanjh paid musical tribute to Rihanna as a gesture of support and thanks. But where there is Diljit, there must be a backlash from you-know-who. That's right, Kangana Ranaut led the counter-strike on Tuesday night with this ferocious reply to Rihanna. With the internet making an enormous meal of the celebrity uprising for Indian farmers and the trends all reflecting the huge traction the issue is getting, the government decided to reply 15 hours later. An unprecedented move by the Ministry of External Affairs. In a statement, the Modi government said it was unfortunate to see the vested interest groups trying to enforce their agenda on these protests and derail them, and that these vested interest groups have also tried to mobilize international support against India. The statement didn't take names, but was clearly aimed at the internet bomb set off by Rihanna. Labeling the celebrity actions as propaganda, the government has now pushed hashtags India Together and India Against Propaganda, with the trends amplified by every major minister in the government.
ना राहुल को मालूम है कुछ कृषि के बारे में, ना रिहाना को मालूम है कुछ कृषि के बारे में. पूछिए दोनों को, ये रबी क्रॉप क्या होता है, खरीफ क्रॉप क्या होता है, कुछ नहीं मालूम. ना राहुल को मालूम, ना रिहाना को मालूम, मगर दोनों की आदत एक है, दोनों ट्वीट कर रहे हैं.
Soon the Modi government got superstar defense, with major Bollywood A-listers from Akshay Kumar and Ajay Devgan to filmmakers Karan Johar and Ekta Kapoor calling for India to fight the propaganda and stand united. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me to discuss the Rihanna tweet storm and the pushback against the global pop star, we've got on this broadcast representing the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, its spokesperson Sanju Verma, squaring off against her from the opposition Congress, Supriya Shirnath. For a perspective from the celebrity world, I've got two contrary perspectives. Actor Madhu joins us, and we've got Dilip Tahil, completely opposite sides of this spectrum. For a legal perspective, I have Karuna Nandi, advocate and activist, and Dilip Cherian joins us as well. What would have gone into a global pop star with very little connection to India jumping into a raging political storm? But I want to go across first and foremost to Sanju Verma to explain the manner in which the BJP and the government have reacted to a global pop star tweeting out and saying, why aren't we talking about this? In the manner in which the establishment reacted, has it not in some ways achieved Rihanna's purpose? She said, why aren't we talking about it? And look, all through the day, what everyone's been doing is do exactly what Rihanna wanted, talk about the farmers' protest.
You know, Rahul, I will not beat around the bush. Let me come straight to the point. I think the Modi government has handled the farmers' protest with a lot of sanity, compassion and sensitivity. 11 rounds of talks have happened between the government and protesting farmers. So even the harshest critics of the Modi government cannot allege that the Modi government has been found to be lacking in efforts. I think the Modi government went out on a limb, literally speaking, to placate farmers. At the same time, I've been on umpteen shows, including yours, and I will say this categorically. The government is willing for a dialogue, for consensus, not confrontation. But the government will certainly not have anyone putting a gun to its head. Let people realize that generosity does not mean weakness. Wanting to have a dialogue should not be construed as a feeble or an enfeebled state. Do not test the might of the state, point number one. Point number two, the Ministry of External Affairs has put out a statement, and I think rightfully so. We need to have our perspective put out as well. Just saying that, oh, why should we give Rihanna the fair share of publicity that she wanted? I don't think that's the right way of looking at things. I think her bluff needed to be called. And let me tell you one thing, you know, with no offense to none, the fact is that Rihanna is somebody who's so much prone to controversy. I mean, just a couple of years back, she was posing half nude in front of the Al Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi, and she had to be told off by the authorities. I just want to ask one question. Rihanna claims her father is half black and half white, but her mother is, a full black from South America. Has Rihanna ever tweeted against the horrific genocide by Boko Haram, listed as one of the most horrific terror organizations in the world by the United Nations? They have been picking up young girls, girls as young as 4 and 6 and 9, and treating them as sex slaves and sending them off in various parts of Central, Eastern and South Africa. No, she has not. The same people today who are showing compassion and sympathy for Sikhs.
Okay, so you've one second. So you've set this up. You've set this up.
One of them tweeting against
Sanju Verma, you've set this up.
1 minute.
You've spoken.
You will never find any of these celebrities.
No, you've spoken for 2.5 minutes.
Against Kamal Nath, tweeting against Jagdish Kaitler, tweeting against the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, and calling out the bluff of the likes of Rajiv Gandhi. The selective outrage and selective morality, selective hypocrisy is what we are against. Nobody is against right to freedom of speech and expression, but you cannot make it selective and then have a holier than thou attitude. Then you lose the right to have a high moral ground.
Okay, you're calling this. Okay, so you've spoken enough. Sanju Verma, that's it. Let's get a first counter from Supriya Srinath. The BJP calls this selective outrage, the height of hypocrisy. She doesn't comment on Boko Haram and she's jumping into the Indian farmer protest, about which she knows very little, argues the BJP, and therefore the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Ajay Devgan, Akshay Kumar, Ekta Kapoor, Karan Johar have the right to hit back if they disagree. So what's the harm? Supriya Srinath, opening comments.
Fair point indeed. I'm a little amused because I don't want to comment on what Rihanna says or doesn't say. These are our internal matters. We will resolve it. I have a counterpoint of view, and my point of view is India was known as the land of the Mahatma for peace. We were the cradle of the most vibrant democracy. What have we come to that people have had to make these comments? I mean, my question is that why have we resorted to things where the international community or, people otherwise are commenting on us? I take offense to people commenting on my country. I'm a patriot. I have an issue with that. But why have we come to this? Words like sanity, compassion and sensitivity were used. I think ma'am just has to perhaps call up one of other cabinet ministers and they will give you what they really think about how the government is behaving with farmers. First things first. I mean, tamasha bana diya hai. Kaun tippani kar raha hai hamare desh pe aur kyun kar raha hai? And what is our counter to that? Our counter to that is coordinated tweets, hashtags by Bollywood celebrities who are also tweeting on Black Lives Matter, but keep quiet here. My other point of contention is the Prime Minister responding to that. So imagine how juvenile this tamasha is. I did not speak in between. I will not do this. I will not talk.
No, one second. No, fade us down. Sanju Verma and Supriya Srinath, this is India today. We try and as best as we can to be the gold standard. This is not a banana republic. I will not have both guests speaking over each other. You spoke for 3 minutes. You wanted a little bit extra time. I showed you the courtesy of completing your argument, and I respectfully expect that you will show your opponent the same courtesy, Ms. Verma. We will come back to you for a counter. But even if you don't like what your opponent is saying, listen to her. I promise to come back to you in just a bit. Supriya, complete your argument quickly.
She spoke for 3 minutes, 20 seconds. I did not intervene and I was expecting the same courtesy. I guess my expectations were to be belied. My problem is even with the MEA statement, it's juvenile, it's partisan and very reactive. We need to solve our issues. We need to solve... Please keep quiet. We need to figure out why we have come to this. We need to ask questions. 75 farmers are dead. We need to ask why are concertina razor wires being used? Why are we doing this? I mean, why are we fighting with our own farmers? Please keep quiet. You gave a monologue for 3 minutes, 20 seconds, or learn to listen. I know you have an issue with that, but maybe you should learn to listen. If you were willing to listen, 75 farmers wouldn't have died, and this would not have gone on for 2 months, and people from all across the world would not be commenting on us. I hope you have the courtesy, the sensitivity, and the passion to listen to people in your country. That's what you have lost in your ego. The government is being egoistic and obstinate, and look at how juvenile they are, even in their reaction to this. I take offense to people reacting to my country, but who has got us here? Kisne tamasha bana ke rakh diya is desh ka? पूछिए उन लोगों से, राष्ट्रवाद का सर्टिफिकेट देते फिरते ये तमाशा बना दिया कि हर आदमी आज हमारे देश पर कमेंट कर रहा है। ये हम महात्मा गांधी का देश है, क्या तमाशा बना के रखा है इन लोगों ने हमारे देश का।
Okay.
बातें करते हैं राष्ट्रवाद की।
Okay, so you've spoken now. I'm going to give Sanju Verma an opportunity to rebut before I go across and throw open. Yes. Go on, Sanju.
You know, Rahul, Supriya Srinath is a walking, talking bag full of lies and filth, because the language she uses in various debates would put even a roadside hawker to shame. Let me tell you one thing. ये लोग कहते हैं कि हमने बीजेपी वालों ने तमाशा बना के रख दिया है। मैं ये पूछना चाहती हूँ, किसान आंदोलन के बीच में राहुल गांधी को ऐसी क्या जरूरत पड़ गई कि अपने नैनीहाल इटली चले गए? बिहार में इतनी जबरदस्त हार के बाद जैसलमेर छुट्टी मनाने चले गए? Let me tell you, today BJP with 18 crore members is the party to defeat. Congress, which was once the grand old party, is a fragmented, withered, impoverished shell of its earlier avatar.
Supriya, let us speak. No, one second. Oh my God, I can't. Okay, one second. Faders down. Supriya, fader goes down. Supriya's fader goes down. Supriya, I expect exactly the same courtesy from you as I did from the BJP spokesperson. Her fader will stay down. Let Sanju Verma complete. I cannot allow this debate to degenerate to the standard of a banana republic. I am, in principle, philosophically, ideologically opposed to gutter level debates. Let Sanju Verma complete.
You know, Rahul, are you not surprised that Supriya Srinath and, you know, half journalists and half spokespersons like her, who never even once condemned the desecration of the Mahatma statue a few days back, did you see any tweets from Rahul Gandhi saying that, you know, he's horrified at the desecration of the Mahatma statue in the United States of America? No. Have you ever seen Rahul Gandhi condemn his father Rajiv Gandhi's statements post the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, when Rajiv Gandhi said, जब कोई बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है, तब कुछ लोग तो कुचले जाते हैं, कुछ लोग मर जाते हैं. No, there was no comment from Rahul Gandhi. Till date, he has not apologized. Let me tell you, the worst riots in India, right from Bhatta Parsol to Aligarh to Muzaffarnagar to the Azad Maidan riots in Mumbai, have happened under the leadership, or should I say lack of it, when Congress was in power. So Congress has no moral high ground to give us a lecture on anything that pertains to violence, protest, dissent, what have you. I have always said freedom of speech is supreme.
So you've spoken. Sanju Verma has spoken. Sanju Verma has spoken. Her fader goes down. So you've spoken. Ma'am, you've spoken. I will have to give, because this is getting personal, and I want to keep it as oriented towards discussing the issue at hand and making it personal. Very quick counter from Supriya before I go across to the other guest. Supriya.
I just have one point to make. I don't think we should be calling each other bag full of lies and sinners. That's not the point of this debate. And as far as Gandhiji's statue being desecrated is concerned, you have Pragya Thakur in your party who keeps calling Godse a freedom fighter and a martyr. So the day you put her out of your party, let's discuss Mahatma Gandhi, his legacy and his non-violence. Till such time, the BJP should stop talking about that.
Pogrom. You still
keep quiet.
Keep the fader down. Okay. Keep the fader down, please. Let Supriya complete.
My only simple point is this, Rahul, that why have we come to a stage? Rihanna or nobody should have any business commenting on our internal matters. But why have we come to a stage? We need to look at the issue and not shoot people who are going to talk about it. I am ashamed that somebody is talking like this about India, but I want to address that issue. The government of the day is the only authority capable of addressing that issue, and that issue needs to be addressed. Instead, we are at war with our own farmers. This has to stop.
Okay, so I want to go across now to Dilip Cherian. Mr. Cherian, you understand the world of celebrities, social media, paid tweets, and propaganda, and how such tweets might have materialized. What's your best sense at this moment about why a star like Rihanna would jump into a matter about which she knows very little? Is she looking for attention? This is very far away from where her core audience is, so it's not even as if, you know, it's India where she's hoping to sell her albums. We also know that she's friends with some Canadian MPs who are supporters of the Khalistani cause. Do you see international propaganda machinery at work which is trying to get these celebrities to put out such tweets? What would have gone into a tweet from Rihanna like this?
You know, I don't see either a paid situation or a situation where she was influenced. What I'm worried about is what the Wall Street Journal said a few hours ago, that Rihanna has famously commented on Afghanistan, Myanmar, and Sudan. Now, that worries me. As a nationalist, as someone who's concerned with the image of the country, that worries me that when Rihanna decides to comment on India, when previously she has commented on these three countries, it worries me. Secondly, it is the role of artists. Those of us who remember 1971 and George Harrison's concert for Bangladesh know that artists always come out and speak for the dispossessed, for those who are in trouble. So Rihanna doing this is actually playing to her audience of 100 million fans who follow her. 3, I think Greta Thunberg and others also, it's the same kind of philosophy that they are working with. There is no acting in unison. I've looked for the signs, I've examined it, and I've checked on that. So let's not try and go down that rabbit hole. What we should examine, though, is that the responses from Indian celebrities, strangely and sadly, again, given the importance of the god of cricket doing this, and some film stars and some producers, they all sound as if they're part of the same WhatsApp group. That also worries me. What should worry us as a country is that let celebrities battle it out. Certainly the ministry should not come into it. But the fact is that when people of that level, of the level of Rihanna and others, make comments, it is the image of India which gets dented, and that bothers me. Worse, when it happens totally by chance, on a day after the budget, then one huge initiative by the government gets washed away from the public perception, and we as a nation are left discussing what is happening to our farmers. Now, I'm against hashtags.
So, Karuna Nindi, I want to build on what Dilip Cherian is saying, and I'm not 100% certain I agree with him, because he's saying it happened completely by chance. Did it? Because we've also seen lots of people who agree with the cause of the farmers, and some of them being supporters of the Khalistan movement, actually reaching out to these international celebrities, pointing them in the direction of what's happening and encouraging them or motivating them or pushing them, driving them to come out and tweet. So there is, for what it's worth, some kind of a campaign which is orchestrated, which is on, trying to get these celebrities to tweet. And therefore, while Dilip Cherian says that that Sachin Tendulkar, Ajay Devgan sound like they're part of the same WhatsApp group, these celebrities can say, hey, if you're going to attack us, surely we have the right to defend ourselves and push back. What's wrong with that? Karuna Nandi.
I think let's be clear that all we know, aside from the conspiracy theories that proxies for government have set out, are that Rihanna has said one line. Why are we not talking about this? What's the article that she linked to? It was with regard to the internet shutdowns and the crackdown on free speech, not the MSP. I mean, she was continually accused of not knowing what the MSP was. And perhaps she doesn't know what the minimum support price is and what the role of the APMC and the mandis are and the intricacies, right? But I do think that what is happening in my country today is going beyond that. I'm not an activist, Rahul. I'm a lawyer. I'm a constitutionalist. And I am a patriot. And what is happening in our country today with regard to the persecution of journalists, we have sedition cases, including of your colleague, for pressure by government to remove people from their positions. We have internet shutdowns. We have a recent order by the Bihar government telling people not to protest and that you're not going to get you're not going to get government jobs, you're not going to get benefits, etc. Contrary to Kameshwar Prasad, which is specifically a constitutional bench judgment on this matter. India is a leader in the crackdown on internet and on internet shutdown. This has been losing us 2.8 billion a year. India is number 1 in the world in internet shutdown. Now, the thing is that we all saw, Trayvon Martin being shot. Young black boys being shot for no good reason except that they were young black boys. We have heard of the attacks on Hutus, attacks on Tutsis, I beg your pardon, in Rwanda, and the genocide that was fueled by the kind of hate speech that we actually are starting to see in this country today. And when this happens to my country, it's not that I feel that other people speak up. Whether Rihanna was one, actually, or whether it's someone in the British Parliament. I do believe that there are particular human rights that are universal. Nobody can tell us what to do. Can people stand with the citizens of this country with regard to rights? I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so respond to this, Sanju Verma, the concern that, the more we attack, the more international condemnation this draws, the bigger the agitation against India becomes.
Rahul, I'm not perplexed by what somebody like Karuna Nandi, who calls herself a constitutionalist and a patriot, says. I'm not anyone to dole out certificates on Desh Bhakti. Equally, let me call out her bluff. Under the veil of saying that we are patriots, she said India is number 1 in terms of internet shutdown. What Miss Nandi conveniently forgets, I don't know which newspapers or journals she reads or whether she reads at all. India has been ranked as number 1 in food security. We gave food to 81 crore people every single month for 9 months in a row in 2020. We run the world's largest health insurance program in the world under Ayushman Bharat. Let me tell you that. We run the world's largest food security program in the world. We run the world's largest financial inclusion scheme called Jan Dhan in the world, Ms. Karuna Nandi. We have today 43 crore Jan Dhan bank accounts, of which 30 crore Jan Dhan bank accounts have been given to women. That is what women empowerment is all about. It was after so many decades that the Modi government banned commercial surrogacy. That is women empowerment under the Modi government. Under so many, after so many decades, the sex ratio at birth of females for every 1,000 males today is 934, the highest ever in post-independent India. So Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao has not been a jumla like some of you would like us to believe. You do not see the fact that we run the largest financial inclusion scheme. You have nothing to say about the fact that we run the largest food security scheme. You have nothing to say about the fact that we run the largest health insurance scheme. But you conveniently remember as a patriot that we have been ranked number 1 in internet shutdown. So much for your thinly veiled patriotism or whatever is left of it.
No.
And let me tell you one more thing. We took over France in 2019 and the United Kingdom in 2020 to become the 5th largest economy in terms of real GDP. The 5th largest. And we have been the fastest country to vaccinate 20 lakh people in a short span of barely 10 days. But you will not talk about this. Do you know what the United Nations Secretary General said? 1 minute.
No, 1 second. Okay,
Mr.
1 second. Her
Buchanan,
fader goes down. Her fader goes down. You've spoken enough. Ma'am, time has to be equally distributed. You've spoken a lot. But Karuna Nandi, here's the fact. Greta Thunberg has just put out a tweet saying she's planning the largest protest in human history against the Indian farm protest. Now, I have no idea whether she can pull this off or not. But what could be happening is the more you push back, the bigger the agitation gets. So the more support it gets, the more people get to know of it. And that has a spiral effect. Let Karuna Nandi respond to everything that Sanju Verma said. And then I'll go across to the other guest. Karuna.
I'd be happy to talk about Ayushman Bharat. I think Ayushman Bharat is a really good program. I'd be happy to talk about the food security. I don't think it's good enough yet because the child wasting has gotten much worse. And I wish we could talk about this every day, Sanju Verma, really. Because I think the people are hungry. And yes, we run a large security program, and yes, there are huge challenges. And I'm in sympathy with any government that it's a tough job. Children are wasting away at a much higher rate than they were before. And this is something that we need to be deeply concerned about. I was part of the drafting of the Right to Food Bill when it came out. I'm not delighted with the end result that was finally negotiated its way through Parliament. But as a country, we have challenges, and there are challenges we need to grapple with. I think we're not focusing on the right things. Where I diverge from you is that my loyalty is to our people. I do not consider patriotism to be challenging government programs, as you seem to require. Let me be absolutely and 100% clear about that to you, the BJP spokesperson, and to the government. In this regard, I think we should be absolutely clear that suppression of speech, as the Supreme Court said in Shreya Singhal, that suppression of speech breeds fear. Fear breeds violence. That internet shutdowns, in fact, have time and time again led to peaceful protests becoming not peaceful because there's no way to organize the peace of the protest. So I think what's happening here is hugely counterintuitive.
Dilip Tahil and Madhu, I want to go across to Dilip Tahil first. Okay. So Dilip Tahil, what do you make of the pushback that we are seeing? Ekta Kapoor, Karan Johar, Sachin Tendulkar, Akshay Kumar, Ajay Devgan, all of them using the same hashtag. Dilip Cherian remarked, it seems like they're all on the same WhatsApp inbox, WhatsApp group. And now we're seeing more and more stars come out. And they're wanting to make it bigger. Do you think this was the right approach to push back because we must, or do you think this may have at some level been counterproductive?
Well, a very good evening to you, Rahul, and thanks for remembering about me. I thought you had totally overlooked that I was on the show. Can you bring me back to your original question before the show began, please? What is your original question, if you may enlighten me? No, before the show began.
So my question is around Rihanna's tweet and the kind of pushback that we're seeing from Indian celebrities. Is this the right way of pushing back against the American pop star for what she said about the Indian farm protest, or do you think this only amplifies what she's saying? She says talk about the farm protest, and that's now what everyone else is doing. Dilip Tahil.
Well, I have to say this morning when I read that Rihanna had commented about the farmers' agitation, I was a little surprised because she seems to be the most unlikely candidate in the realm of things to be that I thought would even know something about the farmers' agitation. My only question is, with all due credit and with all respect to anyone who wants to comment, is that I would like to ask Rihanna exactly which is the point in this farmers' agitation that she would like to talk about that hasn't been talked about. I would like her to clarify and be a little more specific, if for nothing, but just for her own credibility.
Okay, Madhu, do you think this is a PR stunt in some senses, that, you know, what's the social cause I can be associated with which will draw traction, increase my brand recall, get me spoken about, get people agitated, seem like I'm cheering for the right cause?
Firstly, hello, Rahul. Firstly, I think this is too much importance given to one tweet by somebody so far away from India. And if we are calling ourselves celebrities, or we are celebrities, we are not a part of the government. We are not farmers who is facing the heat. We don't know the situation. We are not in it. We are all watching it on TV and reading about it in newspapers. And yes, my heart. Now let me talk about myself and not Rihanna. I don't know what is happening. I'm just watching the news television, the telecast, and I look at these farmers, the protest, and all the things that's going on. My heart goes out to the farmers. I feel sad because I see them, they are afraid of their future, their livelihood, their family. You see their faces. And as an artist, and just as a citizen of India and a global citizen, I'm looking at this and my heart goes out, and I put out a tweet. Oh my dear God, what's going on? I hope these things get resolved. These things, it gets resolved. That's all I'm doing. I'm putting out my empathy. I'm putting out my compassion by looking at the news. This is what happened when George Floyd incident happened in America. I'm not concerned with that kind of racism. I have not faced it. I'm not in that government. I don't know, but I just saw it on television and I put it out. When a tsunami happens somewhere or a forest fire happens somewhere, my heart goes out and I tweet. And because suddenly everybody is reading that tweet and too much is being made out of it. In my opinion, that is what it is. You see something, your heart goes out on a Sunday morning or a Tuesday morning and you put out a tweet. Why is there so much reaction? Why is our government reacting to this? The farmers
let Dilip Tahil respond to it. Why is the government at all bothering responding to this? There are so many Indians who had comments on Black Lives Matter without understanding the nuances of race or racial tensions in America, without understanding the process of impeachment. Everybody had a view on whether Trump should be impeached or not impeached. Okay, go on, Madhu. Okay, Dilip Tahil, do you want to respond to this? People jump out on Black Lives Matter or the protests at Capitol Hill. I mean, that's not an Indian affair at all, and yet nobody seems to oppose Indians jumping in and commenting on that.
Well, all I can say is that I kind of agree with Dilip Cherian on that. The fact that Rihanna has an audience. This is a sort of a general tweet. Somebody somewhere in her PR machinery must have taken out this particular nerve end and said that target this to the Indian audience. And she said it. And obviously, since she's such a big star, it has created a reaction. And then the rest, I mean, the channels have picked it up and we're discussing it. I really don't, I'd like to believe that the Indian government isn't overly perturbed about what Rihanna says any more than the fact that, that she does have a following and it could have a sort of a kind of a groundswell.
No, you're saying the Indian government isn't perturbed. But Dilip Cherian, if you see the kind of reactions we've seen, the MEA putting out a tweet, ministers using the same hashtag, pushing back, well, it's very clear that the government is perturbed and they want to quell this. They're not okay with Rihanna saying whatever she wants about the farmers' protest. They want to put her down hard.
Rahul, my anxiety is that this kind of pushback makes for even a bigger global news cycle around this. So the right way to do it, and as a communications person and one who has handled crises of this kinds before, the right way to have handled Rihanna and Greta was to have a bunch of Indian celebrities, maybe Mr. Bachchan or others on that WhatsApp group, to actually respond. And that would have been adequate. We do not need an official pushback. There's a big difference between, the Canadian Trudeau's kind of remark, which can constitute the comment that, hey, worry about your country, don't worry about ours. But individuals like this who have a global following need to be treated in a different category. And I don't think government is best suited to push back on this.
Okay, Sanju Verma, you want to respond to it that the government probably, Dilip Cherian feels, shouldn't have bothered jumping in because she's not a head of a state. It's not the Republic of Rihanna. This is one celebrity. Why should the Indian government, through its MEA, come out and try and attack her? Just, it's pointless. You're giving her more credence than you should.
I want to make a couple of points here. First of all, with no offense to Dilip Cherian, I remember him talking about 3 countries, Afghanistan, Sudan and Myanmar. And he says, Rihanna tweeted about these 3 countries and, she's now tweeted about India. So he seemed to show that there's something to be concerned about. I would just like to say Afghanistan
editorial team has commented on it. I didn't say that. I said the Wall Street Journal.
Okay, so let me, fine. Yeah. You named these 3 countries. Okay, we got you. You named these 3 countries, and I'm surprised that you brought these 3 countries to be compared with India. You seem to be comparing India with 3 countries. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Yes, so please let me speak now. Let me speak. You had your say. You had your say. Sudan has been under a presidential regime before there was a coup For the longest time, Omar al-Sharif was the president. It has had a totalitarian regime. So don't compare Sudan to India. Thirdly, Myanmar, we always knew, was a fledgling government in place by Aung San Suu Kyi. So I'm not surprised at what has happened. Coming to Afghanistan, anyone who has a modicum of intelligence on international affairs knows Afghanistan has been ruled for the longest time by a radicalized fundamentalist Taliban. So let us not compare the world's mightiest and one of the world's oldest and biggest democracies with these three countries. Point number two, I think Madhu made a very interesting point. She kept repeating one sentence saying that, my heart goes out if I see that, there are farmers, X people are bleeding, something is happening. That is precisely my point. There are three things that we need to understand. A, what is shown. B, how is that news interpreted. C, and most importantly, how is that news consumed by people like Madhu, who at least had the honesty to say she does not understand anything about farmer protests, yet her heart feels for farmers because A, obviously, she has simply not understood the dynamics at play. She has consumed the news that is being offered to her in completely a manner that is devoid of rationality. Because everybody knows that the government went out on a limb, but farmer protests under the guise of helping farmers, radical elements have entered the protest. But nobody is speaking about Khalistan.
Okay, fade it down. Sanju Verma, surely you cannot assume that the only person being rational is yourself. I will let Madhu respond to whatever you said about her, and then we can take it from there. Madhu, respond to everything Sanju Verma said about your rationality or ability to process or not process, understand, not understand. Madhu, yes.
Yes, I believe that the government is doing the best it can, and they are the policy makers. I don't know how they run the country, but it is their job and they are doing it. Maybe they are looking at the ecological factors, they are looking at the economic factors, they are looking at the growth and they are planning the country. Now, the farmers are not able to understand it because they are not looking at it like that. It is personal for them. They are afraid that they are going to lose their livelihood, their minimum whatever guarantee and assurances, and they are protesting, and it is in their right to protest for their safety and to safeguard their lives. So it is the government and the farmers' representatives who are going to solve this issue. While this is happening, we as a citizen can just wait and watch and hope that the best happens and they don't suffer. They are the vulnerable section of our society and they are the backbone. Farmers, agriculture is the backbone of our existence. So I'm sure and I have faith and I hope I'm right. I have the faith in the government that they will resolve. But while it is being resolved, as a citizen, I have a right to put out my emotions there. Not as somebody who says this is right or wrong, but this is sad and I hope it gets resolved. Now, that cannot be interpreted by either of the party and say this is for me or against me. I am not a party person. I am not for the farmers or against the farmers or pro-government or against government. I am a citizen who doesn't want this situation to happen because my country is bleeding. Farmers are bleeding. Human beings are bleeding in the world when there's an issue. When Rihanna is watching the news, in my opinion, I'm not defending her. But in my opinion, just as I felt like commenting on George Floyd, I don't know what the issue was, but I felt sad for the brutality and what happened eventually. So I put out a tweet and that is all there is to it. And I don't believe in joining hashtags because hashtags makes it a propaganda. Hashtags is agenda. I am not a part of any propaganda, but I have a right as a citizen, global citizen, national citizen. I have a right to put out my emotion, my thought, and my feelings. This is what I'm saying. So why are you
all our guests have spoken.
To a tweet that's
you heard different shades of this very enraged debate. Did Rihanna do the right thing by jumping into a controversy so far away from where she is situated? Did the government do the right thing by hitting back in the way that they did? Did celebrities do the right thing by pushing back in the manner in which they did? Has it only inflamed passions, made it a bigger story than it would have been? You've heard different points of view, and as always on the Newstrack, I leave it to you to decide, because I believe very strongly that our viewers have the rationality, the ability to process what they're hearing and come to their own conclusions. We don't want to tell you what to think because you're way too smart for that. We leave it to you to decide whether or not you think Rihanna and the government and these celebrities did the right thing or not. To all my guests, for joining me on the Newstrack. Thank you very much. When I come back, we'll shift our attention to the government pushing back against Twitter for reactivating the accounts it wanted blocked. The government threatening legal action, saying that this is a violation of Indian law. I'll get you that report and more when we come back on the other side of a quick break.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.